This morning, you guys, we are going to be talking about how not to lose the power of your story. It's something that we were talking about here last night, and it can happen. It can happen, and then your whole business and everything is going to start to go sideways because it's the reason for everything. So we're going to get into how not to lose the power of your story, okay, and how I see it happen the most, and so then you can understand how not to have it happen. Sound good? All right. So if you are watching this and you are not yet a YouTube subscriber, oh my gosh, what are you waiting for? Here's what you do. You subscribe to YouTube, you comment on YouTube videos, and you share my YouTube videos into social media. Tag myself or my business page in it, whatever you want to do. But one person every single week is going to win something. So there is that. Make sure that you are that person, right? And like I said, all you have to do is subscribe to YouTube, comment on the YouTube videos, share the YouTube videos on the social media. All right, I see you guys popping in here. Hello, Kat and Andrea. I'm going to go ahead and swing back through after my talk and put some of you guys up on screen where I believe you belong. You know what I'm saying? So, how not to lose the power of your story, okay? So this came up last night. We had Pete and Danelle over for dinner, and we were just sitting and chatting about stuff afterward, and we were talking about somebody that we know and how they seem a little bit, and I'm not going to say their name. I'm not going to say their name, but how they seem a little bit like not as powerful as they used to be. And we were trying to we're like, what is going on there? And then finally, I was like, I think this is what it is. Now, because they say their story so much, like they speak on stages and they do lives and all of that stuff. Now they tell their story so much that they now appear to be bored by their own story. Okay? I hope somebody was like, oh, here's the deal, you guys. Is we have our story, we have our why, right? If you haven't read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, definitely read that. It's a fantastic book, came out, feels like eons ago. Really great book. But your why is your story to how you got here, right? So you guys hear me tell my story a lot, and my story, one of my stories anyway, there's going to be many of them, but one of my stories, my biggest story, is whenever I saw my girl take her very first steps. And whenever you guys see me tell that story, I don't just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da right through it. I go back there. It's like I open the door back into that time, and then I step back in it, and I feel it. And I remember what that was like, and I sit in it. So for the most part, whenever I tell that story, you're going to see me tear up, you're going to see me cry, you're going to see all, because I'm in it. I'm feeling it again, right? And I think that a lot of people are afraid to feel those stories again because they don't want to go back to that place. Like it's the thing that they would love nothing more than to run from and to run far away from and put as much space between them and their story as possible so it cannot hurt them anymore. And a lot of people are going to look at that like a healing process. This is what we were talking about last night as well. There's healing from that stuff, right? But then there's also being able to help other people move through it. And the only way that you're going to help other people move through that stuff that you're here to help them move through, the only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you can go back, sit in it, as you're telling the story. So this person that we were talking about, and like I said, God bless them. They're probably just going through something right now. But it brought up, this is good stuff to talk about and good stuff for all of you guys to think about in your own businesses. This individual now, whenever they tell their story, it's like they're reading a book or a teleprompter. It's not much emotion. It's just da-da-da-da. It's factual. It's data. You know, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened with no fluctuation, with no And here's the reality, you guys, is when we can't sit in it and own it for what it really felt like and what it really was, our people, your people, aren't going to know that you're really here for them, because they're not going to know what you went through, because it doesn't resonate the same. When you just say a story, it doesn't resonate the same as living the story. And I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand me here, I'm not saying live the story day in, day out, day in, day out. I'm not saying wallow in the story. Please get that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for speaking purposes, for when you're talking to people about what you do, for like if you're speaking on a podcast, if you're speaking on a stage, if you're sharing with somebody why you do business, if you're one-to-one with somebody and you do have the time to really just go through a 3-minute version of your story, go back. You have to go back. Or else you look like, and here it is, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Here's why you would look like that. Is because you look like you're trying to pander to a certain kind of person without connecting with that person. So you look fake, you look inauthentic, and you look like you might be deceptive. Please hear me on all of that. Because there's a big school of thought, and I don't disagree with it, but there's a big school of thought out there, you guys, that whenever you heal from something, it no longer has that charge, right? And so you know you've healed from something because it no longer makes you cry. No longer makes you drop to your knees and you're like, oh, well, I've healed from that. That's great. That's good for a healing purpose, you guys. But if you're truly here for your people, you need to still be able to go back to that place and remember. I'm not saying that it colors your every day of your life. That's where the healing is. It's because you've moved through it, right? But you need to be able to go back and sit in that space. That's where you create authority. That's where you create bonds. That's where people will be like, oh my gosh, she gets me. I mean, when I describe the story of Nora taking her first steps, I mean, my whole point of that story is that I was missing everything, right? And so I go through the different events of what that looked like and how it felt to miss everything. And today, am I missing everything? No, because this is why I've created the life that I live right now. But I have to be able to go back to what it felt like to be missing things and not know what my next step really was. Because that's where my people are. And they need to understand that I was there. Or else, why am I trustworthy? Why am I a guide for anybody in that space if I haven't been there myself? Right? It's the same for you guys. In telling your stories, you really need to be able to go back to it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, okay, you guys? I don't like that term. I just realized right now, why do I even say that? And that's a gross term. So anyway, so that's a realization moment, excuse me, that I'm just going to verbally process on camera in front of you guys. But you guys, don't say your story so many times the same way over and over and over again so you get them memorized. A lot of people try to memorize things. Don't memorize so much stuff and go back, live in it, explain it from where you were living it. Some people joke around, but I love how I operate. But some of my team definitely jokes around because I'll go somewhere and I'll speak and I have my title. I don't have anything else. Or I'll have my title and I'll have 3 points that I want to make. And I'll roundabout get to all of those 3 points. But I'm not going to do it in a way that's the same every time. How many times have you seen a speaker and they say the same thing. You're just like, oh my gosh, I have already heard this. I've heard it so often, I could probably say it for you, you know, like for a speaker. And I think what's really important for us, especially if you're wanting to be a speaker, what's really important for us is that our people, when they come see us speak somewhere, they're not going to see the same thing over and over and over again. It's going to be new. It's going to be different. And that's why I only give myself a title, or I give myself a title and, you know, 2 or 3 bullet points, because it's not going to be the same. How I get there is going to be different. It depends on my crowd. It depends on who I'm talking to. It depends on like how we're bobbing and weaving in the conversation, because it's a very real conversation between me and the audience. And so don't just memorize your story, because what you're going to do when you memorize your story is you take all of the emotion out of it, which really just don't even tell a story, because it's worse. It's worse than not saying anything, to tell a story that just has a thud, that has no charge to it whatsoever. Okay, you guys? So I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. What are you guys talking about over here? Oh, just a heads up. Oh my gosh. I'm not telling you guys what's going on. You're going to see what's going on. You kind of have an idea a little bit of some of changes that are coming to HBR. It's insane. Anyway, you guys, here's how you can jump in if you haven't jumped in yet. Go to Livin the Dream with Martha. That is my Facebook business page. Message me the words, let's do this, rainbows and unicorns, whatever you want. I would suggest getting in right now as opposed to later. Totally up to you, but it's a lot less expensive right now than it is going to be later. And you are still going to get the benefits of what you're going to get whenever it goes up almost 10x in price. Okay, you'll still be enveloped into all of that, but you don't have to pay as much. So it's up to you. Obviously, you know, do what you want. Let me get that out of there. And let me see what you guys are talking about. Misty, good morning. Cindy, good morning. Lorna, good morning. Lydia, yes, great morning. Martha joined right as you were talking about the story. So spot on. Awesome. Judith, authenticity. Yes. Yes, healing and being able to help. Boom. I love this. Emotion is so important when we are in the business of changing lives. 100%. It's important for everything. People do what they do because of emotion, period. You're not going to logically get anybody to do anything. Even if they're like a personality type that's like, but what about this? But what about this? Emotion is still what pushes people over the edge. Note that down if you need to. Lydia, nailed it. Love your shirt. Oh, thank you. I just got this at Doxology in downtown Winter Garden. I do love downtown Winter Garden. All right, you guys. Melanie, our experience stories make powerful emotional connection with others. There it is. Andrea, yes, that's so true about not being straight, repetitive. Yes. Melanie, like you, Martha, I have minimal notes when I speak and train as I respond to the participants. Yes. I think it's really great whenever we can do that. Megan, being numb about your story is actually a sign that you're not fully healed. There it is. Boom. Boom, pow, y'all. You guys have the best day ever. I will see you later. Bye-bye.